Disclaimer: the information provided in this video is intended strictly for educational and entertainment purposes only and does not constitute professional financial, legal, marketing, or business advice. Running an online store, executing email marketing campaigns, and managing customer data involve inherent business risks and strict regulatory compliance requirements. The potential outcomes, revenue discussions, and audience growth strategies discussed in this program are based on historical trends, general industry observations, and specific case studies, rather than absolute certainties. Viewers must conduct their own independent due diligence and consult with certified marketing professionals or legal counsel before making any strategic or financial decisions regarding their software infrastructure, marketing expenditures, or data collection operations. Any reference to profitability, conversion rates, or long-term business growth should not be interpreted as typical or expected results. Your individual success depends heavily on your specific market conditions, product quality, audience engagement, and execution strategy. We assume no liability for any losses or damages resulting from the implementation of the concepts discussed in this presentation. It is a Friday evening. You are staring intently at your Squarespace dashboard, watching the live visitor analytics flatline. You have spent countless weeks perfecting the visual aesthetics of your online store, meticulously sourcing your inventory, and pouring your hard-earned capital into Facebook and TikTok advertisement campaigns. You finally get a sudden spike in website traffic, maybe even a few initial celebratory sales, but then the social media algorithm inevitably shifts. The tech giants update their privacy policies, restricting third-party tracking. Customer acquisition costs skyrocket overnight. Suddenly, that predictable stream of baseline revenue you were heavily counting on completely dries up. You are effectively acting as a tenant building a massive, expensive mansion on rented digital land. If you do not own the direct line of communication to your audience, you do not truly own a scalable business. You simply own a highly stressful, capital-intensive hobby. This is not a theoretical doom and gloom warning. It is the exact painful scenario that plays out thousands of times a day across the United States for ambitious e-commerce founders. Historically, the single greatest defense against this kind of algorithmic volatility and rising ad costs has been a robust, highly optimized, and aggressively maintained email list. For every single dollar strategically allocated to email marketing, industry benchmarks historically show a return of $36 to $40. But here is the massive, controversial elephant in the room that venture-backed software companies and aggressive marketing agencies actively try to obscure from you. The vast majority of e-commerce founders are fundamentally sabotaging their own email deliverability and leaving thousands of dollars of potential revenue on the table because they are stubbornly using the wrong operational tools for their specific stage of business growth. Today, we are staring down one of the most polarizing and heavily debated tools in the entire digital storefront ecosystem: Squarespace email campaigns. Is this built-in, seamlessly integrated platform the ultimate streamlined secret weapon for the modern, design-conscious online store? Or is it a beautifully disguised trap? A trap that deliberately restricts your behavioral automations, throttles your audience segmentation, and ultimately suffocates your brand's financial growth exactly when you need to scale the most? You have likely heard whispers in exclusive e-commerce forums that native website builders simply cannot handle serious, high-volume email deployment. You might have been sternly told by self-proclaimed marketing gurus that if you are not currently paying hundreds of dollars every single month for a complex, enterprise-level platform equipped with predictive machine learning algorithms and advanced logic flows, you are destined to fail in the modern marketplace. But what if that conventional, expensive wisdom is entirely wrong for your current operational capacity? What if the absolute best thing you can do for your store's conversion rates right now is actually to radically simplify your technology stack, eliminate software bloat, and lean heavily into the native infrastructure you are already paying for? If you are an American online store owner operating in the current hyper-competitive digital landscape, the primary problem you are facing today is not a lack of available software solutions. Your actual crippling problem is software fatigue, subscription bloat, and the paralyzing daily friction of trying to forcefully integrate a dozen different digital platforms that fundamentally refuse to communicate properly with each other. You do not need another shiny new application to manage. You need absolute, data-backed clarity on whether the tool you already have native access to can actually execute the heavy lifting required to consistently turn one-time, impulsive buyers into lifelong, highly profitable brand advocates. In this comprehensive deep dive masterclass, we are not going to give you superficial talking points or blindly regurgitate the Squarespace corporate marketing brochures. We are going straight into the operational trenches. I am going to break down the exact mathematical cost-to-benefit ratio of the various Squarespace email campaigns pricing tiers compared side by side with industry giants like Klaviyo and MailChimp. We will meticulously analyze the historical trends of utilizing a closed-loop native integration versus dealing with the inherent latency of third-party data syncing, showing you exactly where the critical data leaks happen in your customer purchasing journey. You are going to discover the specific architectural constraints of the Squarespace email visual editor and learn whether those rigid constraints actually hurt your unique brand identity, or if they secretly improve your long-term click-through rates by rigidly forcing a clean, highly accessible, mobile-optimized aesthetic that loads instantly. We will examine detailed, real-world case studies of independent store owners who successfully scaled their recurring monthly revenue to impressive heights using absolutely nothing but Squarespace native automations, alongside the sobering cautionary tales of businesses that aggressively hit the platform's architectural ceiling and were forced to execute incredibly painful, expensive database migrations right in the middle of their busiest holiday financial quarter. We are going to dissect the analytics dashboard feature by feature, exposing exactly what crucial performance metrics Squarespace intentionally hides from you, and how you can manually calculate your true subscriber lifetime value without needing an advanced university degree in data science. Furthermore, we must address the critical, non-negotiable component of legal compliance. Operating a commercial entity within the United States means navigating the strict, unforgiving regulations of the CAN-SPAM Act, and you need to know exactly how the Squarespace infrastructure handles global unsubscribe lists, stringent data privacy mandates, and subscriber consent architecture compared to dedicated, standalone email service providers. We will explore the massive psychological and financial toll of tech debt, that hidden, insidious cost of setting up convoluted, multi-step third-party integrations just to get your website to reliably tell your email platform that a customer successfully purchased a specific product. Every single point of external friction in your technology stack is a critical point where a customer's tracking data can permanently vanish, leading to missed automation triggers, inappropriate messaging, and catastrophic communication failures that erode consumer trust. We will look closely at historical industry trends regarding server-side tagging versus browser-side pixels, and reveal how Squarespace closed-loop ecosystem handles this complex data attribution behind the scenes to trigger your most profitable marketing flows. By the time we are finished with this exhaustive analysis, you will know definitively, without a single shadow of a doubt, whether your specific online store needs to upgrade and activate Squarespace email campaigns tonight, or if you need to run in the exact opposite direction and strategically invest your limited financial resources elsewhere. You will completely understand the exact, psychological anatomy of a high-converting automated welcome series, built entirely within the Squarespace environment. You will see the unfiltered reality of their native abandoned cart recovery rates based on broad industry comparisons, and you will learn the critical deliverability protocols, like configuring custom domain keys, identified mail and sender policy framework records, that you absolutely must manually establish to ensure your promotional broadcasts actually bypass the spam filters, avoid the dreaded promotions tab, and land directly in your customer's primary inbox. This is your definitive, uncompromising, and deeply researched blueprint for making one of the most important foundational infrastructure decisions your e-commerce business will face this entire year. To truly understand the gravity of this decision, we must first confront what industry insiders quietly refer to as the integration tax. Imagine if you are operating a rapidly growing online store in 2026. Let us look at a hypothetical case study of Sarah, a small business owner based in Portland, Oregon, who sells hand-poured artisanal candles and botanical home goods. Sarah built her beautifully aesthetic storefront on Squarespace. It loads quickly, the checkout process is incredibly seamless, and her organic customer base is steadily growing through local search engine optimization. But when it came to email marketing, she listened to the prevalent marketing podcasts and immediately signed up for a highly touted, robust third-party enterprise email platform. The monthly subscription fee was exceptionally steep, but she considered it a necessary investment in her company. However, the true cost she paid was not just the monthly subscription fee, hitting her business credit card. It was the technical latency and data leakage. When a potential customer adds an expensive $90 candle set to their cart, and then abruptly abandons the session because their phone rang, Squarespace has to package that specific behavioral data, send it through an application programming interface, commonly known as an API, and push it into the third-party email software. In a perfect technological environment, this complex handshake happens in milliseconds. But the digital infrastructure in 2026 is anything but perfect. Servers experience massive heavy loads, API rate limits are suddenly throttled during peak shopping hours, and third-party tracking scripts are increasingly blocked by major mobile operating systems prioritizing user privacy. Sarah did not realize that a significant percentage of her abandoned cart triggers were completely failing to fire because the data transfer between Squarespace and her expensive email platform was silently timing out. She was literally losing thousands of dollars in potential recovered revenue every single quarter simply because the two disparate systems were struggling to communicate under pressure. Now, contrast Sarah's historical trend with the operational setup of another hypothetical store owner, Marcus, who runs a direct-to-consumer specialty coffee roasting business out of Austin, Texas. Marcus made a fundamentally different architectural decision from day one. He chose to activate and lean heavily into Squarespace email campaigns. Because this system is natively built directly into the core code of his website, there is absolutely no API handshake required for basic e-commerce triggers to function. When a customer abandons a bag of espresso beans on Marcus's site, the data does not have to travel across the internet to a separate server farm located in another state. The event is recognized instantly within the exact same proprietary database. The abandoned cart email is queued and dispatched with near-perfect reliability. This closed-loop ecosystem entirely eliminates the integration tax. You are no longer spending your precious weekend hours troubleshooting broken webhooks or hiring expensive freelance developers to figure out why your purchase data is not syncing correctly with your marketing lists. For a small to medium-sized business owner navigating the volatile economy in 2026, the potential outcomes of having a frictionless, internally cohesive data pipeline can often completely outweigh the theoretical benefits of having complex predictive modeling tools that you barely have the time to understand, let alone actually implement in a meaningful way. Let us dive even deeper into the financial reality of subscription bloat and how it actively harms your cash flow. If you analyze the historical trends of software as a service pricing models over the past 5 years, you will notice a consistent, aggressive upward trajectory. Third-party email marketing platforms base their pricing almost exclusively on the total number of contacts stored in your database. As your business naturally grows and your audience expands through lead magnets and organic traffic, you are heavily financially penalized for your own success. You might start at an affordable $30 a month, but as you cross the critical 10,000 subscriber threshold, you are suddenly looking at a suffocating bill of over $150 to $200 every single month, regardless of whether you are actually sending frequent emails to all of those people. Squarespace email campaigns fundamentally disrupts this predatory pricing model. They offer tiered plans based primarily on the volume of emails sent per month, rather than penalizing you for simply storing a large list of potential leads. For a seasonal e-commerce business that generates the vast majority of its revenue during the fourth quarter holiday rush, this is a massive financial advantage. During the slow summer months, you are not trapped paying exorbitant fees just to house your temporarily inactive subscribers. You keep your overhead incredibly low when cash flow is tight, and scale your send limits only when you are actively running lucrative promotions. Furthermore, we must address the increasingly complex and legally dangerous landscape of consumer data privacy in 2026. With stringent regulations like the California Consumer Privacy Act continually evolving and inspiring similar laws across various states, the legal and financial liabilities of mishandling customer data have never been higher. Every single time you export your customer list from your primary website database and import it into an external software application, you are creating a secondary point of severe vulnerability. You are immediately increasing your exposure to potential data breaches and heavily complicating your compliance protocols. By keeping your entire customer database securely housed within the native Squarespace environment, you drastically simplify your data governance. You have a single verifiable source of truth for all subscriber consent records, purchase histories, and communication logs. If a customer exercises their legal right to be forgotten and requests that all their personal data be permanently deleted, you execute that command in one single location, entirely eliminating the dangerous risk of a stray data point surviving on a third-party server and triggering a devastating compliance audit. Let us break down the exact step-by-step workflow of how this native integration tangibly impacts your daily operational efficiency. Imagine you are launching a highly anticipated brand new product line on a busy Tuesday morning. If you are using an external platform, your workflow looks something like this. Step 1, you publish the new products on your Squarespace backend. Step 2, you open a new tab and log into your separate email provider. Step 3. You manually upload the product images to the email server, carefully copying and pasting the exact URLs to ensure they link back to the correct product pages. Step 4. You manually type in the prices, triple-checking to make sure they match your live store, so you do not accidentally offer a massive unintended discount. Step 5. You build the email layout and finally press send. It is a tedious, error-prone process that consumes valuable hours of your day. Now look at the potential outcomes of the native Squarespace email campaigns workflow. Step 1. You publish the new products. Step 2. You open the native email composer right there in the exact same browser tab. Step 3. You click the product block tool and simply select the newly launched items from a seamless drop-down menu. The system instantly and automatically pulls the high-resolution images, the exact current pricing, the product descriptions, and the direct checkout links straight from your active inventory database. If you suddenly realize you made a typo in the product name and fix it on your store, it dynamically updates in the draft email in real time. The time saved here is not just a minor convenience. It is a critical operational advantage that allows you to deploy revenue-generating campaigns drastically faster than your competitors. But before you completely abandon your external software subscriptions, cancel your third-party contracts, and aggressively migrate your entire subscriber list over to the native Squarespace platform today, there is a massive, incredibly dangerous catch that you absolutely must be aware of. While the native integration offers unprecedented speed, workflow efficiency, and robust database security, the actual underlying architecture of Squarespace email campaigns hides a severe structural limitation that could fundamentally destroy your ability to segment your audience effectively as your catalog grows. The platform makes one massive, hard-coded assumption about how your customers behave, and if your specific business model does not perfectly align with this rigid, unchangeable assumption, you will find yourself completely paralyzed, unable to send targeted, highly personalized messages to your most valuable repeat buyers. What exactly is this hidden structural limitation, and how do you mathematically determine if it will completely bankrupt your specific marketing strategy before you make the switch? The exact structural limitation that venture capital-funded marketing agencies pray you never discover until you are completely locked into their expensive contracts revolves around the fundamental difference between a flat data architecture and a relational behavioral database. When you utilize the native Squarespace email campaigns ecosystem, the platform organizes your audience primarily through static mailing lists and basic purchase tags. This means the system excels at binary classifications. A visitor is either on the newsletter list or they are not. A customer either purchased the summer collection or they did not. However, as an ambitious e-commerce operator navigating the highly saturated digital markets of 2026, binary data is no longer sufficient to scale a profitable operation. The hidden limitation is the complete absence of deep, dynamic conditional logic, and multi-layer behavioral segmentation based on granular timeline events. Imagine if you are David, an entrepreneur operating out of Chicago, Illinois, who sells high-end, customized mechanical keyboards and specialized desk accessories. By the third quarter of 2026, David has successfully built a highly engaged list of 15,000 subscribers using Squarespace. He decides to launch a highly specialized, ultra-premium set of keycaps that are only compatible with one specific mechanical keyboard model. He sold back in November of the previous year. To maximize his conversion rate and avoid annoying the rest of his subscriber base with an irrelevant product, David needs to isolate a highly specific cohort. He needs to find every single customer who purchased that exact keyboard model, but he also needs to filter out anyone who has historically returned that item, filter out anyone who has already pre-ordered the new keycaps, and specifically target those who have opened at least one of his marketing emails in the last 60 days to ensure high deliverability. If David were utilizing an enterprise-level relational database, building this hyper-specific segment would take roughly 45 seconds using cascading conditional logic. He would simply stack the behavioral filters and deploy the campaign. But within the native confines of Squarespace email campaigns, David hits a massive, impenetrable brick wall. The native architecture simply cannot cross-reference those complex, multi-layered temporal behaviors. It cannot dynamically look at the specific date of a past purchase, compare it against recent email open rates, and automatically suppress buyers based on return status in one fluid query. David is suddenly forced to choose between two highly damaging potential outcomes. He can either blast the entire 15,000-person list with a totally irrelevant offer, which will inevitably result in a catastrophic spike in unsubscribe rates and a severe drop in his domain sender reputation, Or he has to spend 6 hours manually exporting various lists into a complex spreadsheet, running convoluted lookup formulas to find the overlapping customers, and then manually re-importing that custom list back into Squarespace just to send one single email. This manual friction completely destroys the operational speed that made the native platform so appealing in the first place. To mathematically determine if this rigid structural limitation will bankrupt your specific marketing strategy, you must perform a rigorous historical analysis of your own customer purchasing journey using the recency, frequency, and monetary value matrix, commonly known in the industry as RFM analysis. You need to calculate the exact percentage of your total annual revenue that historically comes from highly targeted cross-selling, dynamic upselling, and time-delayed replenishment campaigns versus broad, general promotional blasts. If you analyze your historical trends and discover that 80% of your revenue is generated simply by announcing new product drops to your entire audience simultaneously, then the Squarespace flat list architecture is perfectly adequate, and upgrading to a more complex system is a total waste of capital. However, if your historical data reveals that your profitability relies heavily on sending highly specific educational sequences based on the exact combination of products a customer holds in their possession, the native platform will systematically suffocate your growth. Consider another detailed case study. Imagine if you are Jessica, a founder running an organic, direct-to-consumer skincare brand based in Miami, Florida, operating in the highly competitive beauty sector of 2026. Jessica's flagship product is a proprietary vitamin C serum that mathematically lasts exactly 30 days when used according to the directed daily application schedule. The lifeblood of her recurring revenue model is a highly calibrated replenishment automation sequence. She needs her email infrastructure to automatically trigger a gentle reminder email exactly 21 days after a customer receives the physical package, not 21 days after they place the order, because shipping times fluctuate wildly depending on the courier service. Furthermore, if the customer clicks the link in that reminder email but completely fails to check out, Jessica needs the system to automatically wait exactly 48 hours and then dynamically inject a 10% discount code into a follow-up email, but only if that customer has a historical lifetime value of over $100. This scenario is exactly where the native Squarespace email campaign's architecture mathematically breaks down. While Squarespace does offer rudimentary automated workflows, such as sending a welcome email when someone joins a list or triggering a single message after a specific product is purchased, it completely lacks the sophisticated multi-step branching paths, dynamic wait conditions based on external shipping carrier data, and conditional splits based on historical customer lifetime value. Jessica cannot build her intricate 30-day replenishment sequence within the native environment because the system simply does not possess the granular event listeners required to track those highly specific behavioral nodes. She would be forced to settle for a generic, single-step follow-up email that triggers uniformly for every single customer, entirely obliterating her ability to dynamically adjust her profit margins by only offering discounts to high-value, hesitant buyers. This severe lack of multivariate automation means that as your business scales and your customer journeys inevitably become more complex, you are actively leaving substantial, highly predictable revenue on the table. You are treating a wealthy, 5-time repeat buyer with the exact same automated messaging cadence as a skeptical, first-time visitor who just subscribed for a generic discount code. In the modern e-commerce landscape of 2026, where digital advertising costs are astronomically high, maximizing the lifetime value of every single acquired customer is not just a secondary growth strategy. It is a fundamental requirement for basic business survival. If your email platform cannot recognize the nuanced behavioral differences between your audience members and dynamically adapt the messaging funnel in real time, you are fighting a modern war with outdated artillery. However, before you assume that this deep architectural flaw immediately disqualifies Squarespace from being a viable option for your business, you must understand that there is a highly specific, fundamentally misunderstood workaround. An advanced operational strategy exists that allows you to bypass these native limitations and achieve near-enterprise-level personalization, while entirely avoiding the exorbitant monthly subscription fees of external software. But executing this backdoor strategy requires manipulating a native Squarespace feature in a way that the developers never originally intended. If you implement this specific workaround incorrectly, you will not just fail to segment your audience, you will mathematically trigger strict global spam filters, permanently blacklisting your business domain across major inbox providers, and effectively destroying your ability to email your customers ever again. What exactly is this dangerous but highly lucrative native workaround, And what is the exact step-by-step protocol to configure it safely without triggering an algorithmic death sentence? The exact, highly lucrative native workaround that seasoned e-commerce developers use to bypass the flat architecture of Squarespace email campaigns is known within advanced technical circles as the Phantom Trigger Protocol. To understand how this completely revolutionizes your native marketing capabilities, you must first deeply understand the two primary, hard-coded events that the Squarespace infrastructure allows you to use as automation triggers. The system allows you to trigger an automated email sequence either when a visitor explicitly subscribes to a specific mailing list or when a customer successfully completes a transaction for a specific product. Most amateur store owners look at these two basic triggers and immediately assume they are fundamentally restricted to sending generic welcome newsletters and basic post-purchase receipts. But a strategic operator looks at that second trigger, the product purchase event, and realizes it is an open backdoor into highly granular enterprise-level behavioral segmentation. The secret lies in realizing that a product in the Squarespace ecosystem does not actually have to cost money, it does not have to require physical shipping, and most importantly, it does not even have to be visible to the general public navigating your primary storefront. Imagine if you are Michael, an entrepreneur operating out of Denver, Colorado in the year 2026. Michael runs a highly successful direct-to-consumer brand specializing in ultralight, high-performance backpacking equipment. His overarching business goal for the second quarter is to drastically increase the customer lifetime value of his existing audience by cross-selling highly specific, high-margin seasonal gear. He has thousands of people on his general newsletter list, but he has no idea which subscribers are actively planning grueling winter alpine expeditions and which subscribers are strictly interested in casual warm-weather summer hiking. If he sends a massive promotional blast for expensive winter snowshoes to the summer hikers, his engagement rates will plummet, and his brand equity will erode. Because he is strictly utilizing the native Squarespace email campaigns platform, he cannot simply query a relational database to see who clicked on winter products in the past. Instead, Michael deploys the Phantom Trigger Protocol. He goes into his Squarespace inventory backend and creates a brand new digital product. He titles this product the Ultimate 2026 Winter Alpine Survival Guide. It is a highly valuable, beautifully designed 20-page downloadable document. However, he sets the price of this digital product to exactly $0, and he places it in an unlinked, hidden category on his website so that organic visitors cannot accidentally find it while browsing his store. Next, Michael sends a broad, highly educational email broadcast to his entire general subscriber list, discussing the extreme dangers of sudden temperature drops in the Colorado backcountry. At the very end of this broadcast, he includes a single compelling call to action, offering his new winter survival guide entirely for free. But he does not just link directly to a static file. He links directly to the hidden checkout page for that specific $0 digital product. When a subscriber clicks that link, they are taken to a streamlined, frictionless checkout environment. Because the product is completely free, they do not have to enter any credit card information. They simply enter their email address to receive the download. The moment they click Complete Order, they have successfully tripped the native wire. The Squarespace backend instantly registers a completed commercial transaction for that specific hidden product. Michael has already gone into his Squarespace email campaigns dashboard and built a highly complex, highly lucrative, 4-part automated email sequence that is hard-coded to trigger exclusively when the Winter Alpine Survival Guide is purchased. This automated sequence waits exactly 48 hours to ensure the subscriber has read the guide, and then systematically begins pitching his high-margin winter gear, utilizing the exact psychological pain points discussed in the free document. By exploiting the $0 digital product architecture, Michael has successfully forced a flat mailing list system to execute highly targeted, behavior-based segmentation. He has essentially created a complex conditional logic tree, entirely out of invisible commercial transactions. However, implementing this advanced architectural hack introduces a severe, potentially catastrophic risk that can completely destroy your entire digital business overnight if you do not understand the strict mechanics of modern email deliverability. This is the algorithmic death sentence I warned you about. In 2026, major inbox providers like Google and Yahoo have implemented incredibly aggressive, artificial intelligence-driven sender requirements. Their algorithms are ruthlessly designed to protect consumers from aggressive marketing fatigue and unauthorized automated spam. The danger of the Phantom Trigger Protocol is the high probability of overlapping automation rules firing simultaneously. Imagine if Michael also created a $0 summer hiking guide and accidentally sent an email offering both guides at the exact same time. If an enthusiastic subscriber clicks both links and checks out for both free digital products within a 5-minute window, the Squarespace server, lacking a centralized traffic control delay mechanism, will instantly initialize both automated sequences simultaneously. From the perspective of the Squarespace server, it is simply fulfilling two distinct, valid commercial requests. But from the perspective of the Google or Yahoo inbox algorithms, your domain just sent two completely different, uncoordinated commercial marketing emails to the exact same user within 60 seconds. To the sophisticated machine learning models monitoring global spam trends, this erratic sending behavior does not look like a legitimate business. It looks exactly like a compromised server, executing a malicious botnet attack. The inbox provider will instantly throttle your domain. Your sender policy framework and domain keys identified mail reputation scores will plummet. Your highly valuable marketing emails will immediately bypass the primary inbox and be hard-routed directly into the spam folder, not just for that one specific user, but for every single customer on your entire list who uses that specific inbox provider. You will effectively be screaming into a void, completely unable to communicate with the audience you paid thousands of dollars to acquire. To configure this strategy safely and entirely avoid this algorithmic death sentence, you must implement a strict manual exclusion protocol. Because Squarespace does not offer native suppression rules that tell one automation to wait if another automation is currently active, you must carefully architect your promotional calendar using mutually exclusive marketing windows. If you are running the winter automation sequence, you must ensure that those specific subscribers are manually tagged or temporarily moved to a suppressed list, so they do not receive your regular weekly broadcasts while the automation is actively running. You must mathematically map out the time delays of your automated emails and guarantee that no two sequences can ever overlap on the exact same day for the exact same user. You must treat your automated triggers with the same level of caution and precision as you would treat a highly volatile chemical compound. When executed with this level of meticulous operational discipline, the Phantom Trigger Protocol allows you to extract maximum financial value from the native Squarespace environment, saving you thousands of dollars a year in third-party software subscriptions while still achieving the deep behavioral segmentation necessary to scale a highly profitable brand. You have now successfully engineered a sophisticated back-end data pipeline capable of tracking complex user intent. You have manipulated the native inventory architecture to serve as a dynamic behavioral routing system. But possessing the technical infrastructure to send the right message to the right person at the exact right time is only half of the e-commerce equation. The data routing is flawless, but what happens when you actually open the visual editor to design the creative assets for these automated sequences? You are about to hit a completely different kind of structural wall, one that dictates the exact visual aesthetic of your entire brand and heavily influences whether your customers actually click your links or simply archive your messages in sheer boredom. Is the native Squarespace email designer a masterclass in minimalist conversion optimization, or does it permanently trap you in a rigid, uninspiring creative box that fundamentally stifles your brand identity? The answer to that critical question lies in a psychological concept known as the paradox of choice, combined with the unforgiving technical realities of modern mobile rendering. When most ambitious e-commerce founders first transition from a dedicated, blank canvas email platform like Klaviyo or OmniSend over to the native Squarespace email campaign's visual editor, their immediate, visceral reaction is often one of profound frustration. They click on the Design tab expecting to find a sprawling interface with unrestricted drag-and-drop HTML modules, infinite layering capabilities, and the power to custom-code complex interactive hover states. Instead, they are met with a highly curated, remarkably rigid block system. You cannot freely overlap images. You cannot inject custom cascading style sheets to create wild avant-garde layouts. The structural grid is locked down tight. To the untrained eye, this feels like a massive technological downgrade. It feels like your brand is being forced into a generic algorithmic straitjacket. But if we analyze the historical trends of e-commerce conversion rates over the past decade, we uncover a fascinating and counterintuitive reality. For the vast majority of independent online stores, stripping away these advanced design capabilities actually results in a measurable, highly profitable increase in overall campaign performance. Imagine if you are Emily, an independent artist and e-commerce operator based out of Boston, Massachusetts in the year 2026. Her online boutique specializes in high-end, incredibly detailed home decor. Her absolute best-selling products are her classic red rose framed needlepoint artwork and her heavily requested golden floral framed needlepoint artwork. For Emily, visual fidelity is not just a nice bonus. It is the entire foundation of her consumer appeal. Her customers are buying intricate craftsmanship, and they need to see the precise texture of the needlepoint threads and the rich, authentic colors of the floral patterns directly in their inbox before they ever click through to the website. In the past, when Emily used a complex third-party email builder, she would spend 6 to 8 exhausting hours meticulously designing a single promotional broadcast. She would manually adjust the padding on every single image block, tweak the line height of her typography to perfectly match her website, and painstakingly build elaborate, multi-column product displays. On her high-resolution desktop monitor, the finished email looked like a digital masterpiece. But here is where the technical catastrophe occurred. When she hit send, that beautifully complex design was injected into the chaotic, highly fragmented ecosystem of global inbox providers. Over 65% of her audience in 2026 was opening those emails on mobile devices, utilizing dozens of different screen sizes, operating systems, and dark mode settings. Her meticulously crafted multi-column layouts violently collapsed on smaller smartphone screens. The custom padding she added pushed her call-to-action buttons completely off the visible screen. Even worse, the sheer volume of underlying background code required to generate those complex layouts caused her emails to physically exceed Gmail's strict 102 kilobyte size limit. When an email exceeds this hidden data threshold, Gmail abruptly clips the message, hiding the bottom half of the content behind a tiny link that says View Entire Message. Not only did this hide Emily's beautiful needlepoint artwork, but it also completely hid her legally mandated unsubscribe link. When frustrated users could not figure out how to easily unsubscribe, they simply hit the spam button instead, mathematically devastating her long-term deliverability. Emily was spending hours building complex designs that were actively destroying her business infrastructure. When Emily migrated to Squarespace email campaigns, she was forced to surrender that granular control. The platform explicitly prevents you from building broken, code-heavy layouts. Yet, having a beautiful, fast-loading, mobile-optimized email filled with high-converting product links means absolutely nothing if that message never actually sees the light of day. We have solved the design equation, and we have solved the behavioral routing logic. But now we must face the single most terrifying and mathematically complex hurdle in the entire digital marketing landscape. You can write the greatest copy in the world, and you can have the most stunning product photography perfectly formatted within the Squarespace grid, but if you do not meticulously configure the hidden, highly technical backend protocols of your domain registry, every single one of those emails is going to bypass the inbox entirely and land directly in the spam folder. The native integration makes designing easy, but does it actually protect your sender reputation from the aggressive, algorithmic gatekeepers of the internet? To answer that, we have to open up the domain name system settings and look at the brutal reality of modern authentication protocols. To understand the brutal reality of modern authentication, you must first recognize that in 2026, the major inbox providers like Gmail, Outlook, and Yahoo have effectively become the digital border patrol of the internet. They no longer simply look at your subject line or the quality of your images to determine if you are a legitimate business or a malicious phisher. Instead, they look at your digital passport, a series of hidden complex code strings known as DNS records. If these records are missing, misconfigured, or even slightly outdated, your emails will be summarily executed by the spam filters before they ever reach a single human eye. When you use a third-party email provider, the burden of this technical configuration falls entirely on your shoulders. You have to manually navigate to your domain registrar, find the advanced DNS settings, and correctly copy and paste complex strings of text for your SPF, DKIM, and MARC records. For the average entrepreneur, this is a terrifying process. One single character out of place, one accidental extra space at the end of a DKIM key, and you have effectively disconnected your website from the global email grid. Let us look at a case study of Robert, a tech-savvy store owner in Seattle, Washington, who sells high-end outdoor photography equipment. Robert decided to use a popular third-party email tool because he wanted the most advanced features available in 2026. However, during the setup process, Robert accidentally created two conflicting SPF records. To the human eye, it looked like a minor clerical error. But to the automated security algorithms at Google, it looked like a major red flag. Because the SPF record tells the world exactly which servers are authorized to send email on behalf of your domain, Having two conflicting records meant the security check returned a hard fail. Over the next 30 days, Robert's open rates plummeted from a healthy 35% to a catastrophic 4%. His loyal customers started calling his support line, asking why they hadn't received their order confirmations or their shipping updates. By the time Robert realized the source of the problem, his domain had already been flagged as a low reputation sender by multiple global blacklists. Rebuilding that sender reputation is a grueling process that can take 6 to 12 months of perfect behavior to rectify. This is the hidden technical debt of choosing a disconnected technology stack. Now, let us examine the potential outcomes of using the native Squarespace email campaigns infrastructure for this exact same technical hurdle. When you host your domain directly through Squarespace and activate their native email tool, the system performs what is known in the industry as a silent handshake. Because Squarespace owns the domain registry and the email sending server, it can automatically inject the necessary SPF and DKIM records into your DNS settings without you ever having to touch a single line of code. The system essentially authenticates itself. For an e-commerce founder like Robert, this eliminates the single largest point of technical failure in the entire marketing funnel. You are moving from a manual high-risk configuration to an automated low-risk managed environment. Historical trends show that stores using native, vertically integrated email tools often experience a significant boost in initial deliverability, simply because the technical baseline is consistently perfect from day one. However, we must address the specific nuance of the DMARC protocol, which has become a non-negotiable requirement for all commercial senders in 2026. DMARC, or Domain-Based Message Authentication, Reporting and Conformance, is the final layer of protection. It tells the inbox provider exactly what to do if an email fails the SPF or DKIM checks. Should it do nothing? Should it move the email to the spam folder? Or should it reject the email entirely? While Squarespace handles the SPF and DKIM perfectly, you still bear the responsibility of defining your DMARC policy. This is where many native users still stumble. If you set your DMARC policy to a strict reject setting without first verifying that all your other sending tools, like your customer service help desk or your accounting software, are also properly authenticated, you will inadvertently block your own legitimate business communications. Imagine you are a boutique owner named Chloe in Charleston, South Carolina. Chloe uses Squarespace for her storefront and email campaigns, but she uses a separate third-party software for her transactional shipping labels. If Chloe implements a strict DMARC policy through her Squarespace dashboard, but forgets to authorize her shipping software, her customers will receive her beautiful marketing emails perfectly, but they will never receive their tracking numbers. The tracking emails will be intercepted and destroyed by the inbox providers because they lack the proper authentication. This illustrates a critical point. While Squarespace makes the primary marketing deliverability nearly effortless, it does not absolve you from understanding the total architecture of your business communications. You must audit every single tool that sends an email using your brand's domain name. To maintain a high sender reputation in 2026, you must also look beyond the technical DNS settings and analyze your subscriber engagement data with clinical precision. The algorithms monitoring your domain are not just looking at your passport, they are watching how people interact with your content. If you consistently send emails to people who never open them, the inbox providers will eventually conclude that your content is unwanted. This is known as engagement-based filtering. Squarespace email campaigns provides a streamlined, albeit basic analytics suite that shows you exactly who is opening, clicking, and most importantly, who is marking your emails as spam. Historical trends indicate that maintaining a spam complaint rate of less than 0.1% is the absolute threshold for staying in the primary inbox. If you exceed this, even perfect DNS records will not save you. Step by step, the most successful Squarespace users in 2026 follow a rigorous list hygiene protocol. Every 90 days, they utilize the native segmentation tools to identify cold subscribers, people who have not opened an email in the last 3 months. Instead of continuing to blast these people with promotions, they trigger a single high-stakes re-engagement campaign. If the subscriber still does not engage, the store owner manually removes them from the list. It feels counterintuitive to delete subscribers you worked hard to get, but in the modern era of email marketing, a smaller, highly engaged list is infinitely more valuable and more profitable than a massive dormant list that is actively dragging your deliverability into the gutter. But here is the catch that many people overlook when they celebrate the simplicity of the Squarespace Analytics dashboard. While it tells you who opened the email, it does not natively provide a heat map of where they clicked. It tells you your total revenue, but it struggles to attribute that revenue to specific images versus specific text links. You are getting the high-level data, but you are missing the granular behavioral insights that allow for true conversion rate optimization. This brings us to a pivotal moment in our masterclass. We have secured the technical backend, we have simplified the design, and we have automated the deliverability. But we have yet to address the most important question for your bottom line. How does the actual cost of this convenience compare to the potential revenue it generates? When we look at the pricing tiers of Squarespace email campaigns versus the actual features you get at each level, a startling mathematical reality emerges. Are you actually saving money? Or are you paying a massive premium for a simplicity that might be holding your business back from its true potential? In the next part, we are going to tear apart the pricing sheets and reveal the hidden cost per click that Squarespace doesn't want you to calculate. To truly strip back the marketing veneer, we have to look at the cold, hard mathematics of the Squarespace pricing tiers in the year 2026. Most e-commerce founders fall into a common psychological trap called the convenience premium. They see a starting price of $5 or $10 a month and think they are getting an incredible bargain compared to the high entry costs of specialized platforms. But if you do not calculate your cost per thousand cents, or your CPM, and factor in the missed opportunity cost of advanced automation, you are essentially flying your business blind. Squarespace currently divides its email infrastructure into 4 distinct tiers: Starter, Core, Pro, and Max. Each one is a carefully calculated threshold designed to push you toward a higher monthly commitment as your audience grows. Imagine if you are a creator named Brandon based in Nashville, Tennessee. Brandon runs a high-volume apparel brand that specializes in limited edition streetwear drops. In 2026, Brandon has a list of 5,000 subscribers. If Brandon is on the Squarespace Core plan, he is paying around $10 to $14 a month. On the surface, this looks like a steal, but the Core plan limits him to only 5,000 total email sends per month. If Brandon wants to send a weekly newsletter to his entire list to keep his brand top of mind, he mathematically runs out of credits by the 7th day of the month. To complete his 4-week marketing cycle, he is forced to upgrade to the Pro plan, which jumps his costs significantly to around $24 to $30 a month for 50,000 sends. Still, compared to a platform like Klaviyo, which might charge him over $90 for 5,000 contacts regardless of how many emails he sends, Brandon feels like he is winning. But here is the hidden mathematical leakage that Brandon is missing. In the world of high-conversion e-commerce, your revenue is not generated by the quantity of emails you send, but by the relevance of those emails. Because Squarespace lacks the deep behavioral tracking we discussed earlier, Brandon is forced to send broad-spectrum blasts. Historically, broad blasts have a significantly lower click-through rate compared to hyper-segmented behavioral triggers. If Brandon's broad blast generates a 1% click-through rate, but a segmented automation from a more expensive tool would have generated a 4% click-through rate, Brandon is effectively paying a massive hidden tax in the form of lost sales. For every 5,000 emails sent, Brandon is getting 50 clicks. On a more advanced platform, even with a higher subscription fee, he might have received 200 clicks. If his average order value is $60 and his conversion rate on the site is 2%, those extra 150 clicks represent $180 in lost revenue per email. When you multiply that by 4 emails a month, Brandon is losing over $700 in potential gross revenue just to save $60 on his software subscription. This is the definition of being penny-wise and pound-foolish in a 2026 digital economy. Let us look at a different potential outcome with a case study involving a business owner named Sarah in Phoenix, Arizona. Sarah runs a subscription-based floral delivery service. Her business model relies on high-frequency, low-margin recurring transactions. For Sarah, the Squarespace Max plan, which allows for up to 250,000 sends a month, is a game-changer. Because her margins are so thin, she cannot afford the $300 plus monthly fees that enterprise tools would charge for her 20,000-person list. For Sarah, the native Squarespace tool is the only way she can maintain a positive return on investment for her email marketing efforts. She uses the native integration to send simple, high-frequency reminders. For her specific business model, the lack of complex segmentation is actually a benefit because her product is universal. Everyone on her list needs flowers at roughly the same interval. By using Squarespace, Sarah keeps her fixed overhead low and her operational complexity at a minimum. Step by step, you need to conduct a feature-to-cost audit of your own store. First, look at your current subscriber count. Second, determine your ideal sending frequency. Third, calculate your total monthly send volume. If you are a high-volume sender with a low-complexity product, Squarespace is mathematically superior. If you are a low-volume sender with a high-complexity, expensive product that requires a long, nurtured sales cycle, the native tool is likely costing you thousands in missed opportunities. We also have to discuss the 2026 reality of transactional email limits. Many store owners do not realize that their marketing email limit is completely separate from their transactional email capacity. Transactional emails are the functional backbones of your store: order confirmations, shipping notifications, and password resets. These are included in your basic Squarespace Commerce subscription and do not count against your email campaign's quota. This is a massive hidden value. If you were using a third-party tool, you would often have to pay for a separate SMTP relay service like SendGrid or Postmark to handle these critical functional messages with high reliability. Squarespace provides this enterprise-grade transactional infrastructure for free as part of your website hosting. However, there is a technical ceiling that even the Max plan cannot overcome. In 2026, many advanced online stores are moving toward what is known as omnichannel marketing. They are integrating their email campaigns with SMS marketing, push notifications, and direct mail. Squarespace email campaigns is, as the name suggests, strictly limited to email. If you want to send a text message to a customer who hasn't opened your last 3 emails, you cannot do that within the Squarespace environment. You are forced to export that data and move it to a different platform, which brings us right back to the integration tax and data leakage issues we solved in the earlier chapters. This brings us to the ultimate operational crossroads. We have analyzed the friction-free native integration, the architectural limitations of a flat database, the visual constraints of the mobile-first editor, and the cold mathematics of the pricing tiers. You now have a complete 360-degree view of the internal machinery, but there is one final psychological component that most people ignore until it is far too late. It is the concept of platform lock-in. Once you have built your entire marketing machine inside the Squarespace walls, once your automations are firing and your templates are polished, how difficult is it to leave? What happens to your historical data, your sender reputation, and your customer relationships if you suddenly decide that you have outgrown the platform? Is Squarespace building a garden designed to help you grow? Or is it building a gilded cage that makes it nearly impossible to scale your business to the next level without a catastrophic data migration? We are about to dive into the technical nightmare of platform migration and show you the exact protocol for future-proofing your business so that you never become a digital hostage to your own software stack. If you think your data is safe just because it is in the cloud, you are in for a very expensive awakening. How do you maintain total ownership of your audience in a world that wants to keep you locked in a single ecosystem? To maintain total ownership of your audience in a world that wants to keep you locked in a single ecosystem, you must first confront an uncomfortable technical truth that most software-as-a-service companies deliberately obfuscate in their marketing materials. This is the concept of digital sovereignty versus platform dependency. When you choose to house your entire marketing operation within the Squarespace environment, you are essentially signing a long-term lease on your most valuable business asset, your customer data. While Squarespace makes it remarkably easy to enter their garden, they have historically designed the exit gates to be narrow, complex, and potentially damaging to your business momentum. This is not necessarily a malicious design. It is a fundamental architectural reality of how closed-loop platforms function. In 2026, as data privacy regulations become more stringent and the value of first-party behavioral data reaches an all-time high, understanding the mechanics of your exit strategy is just as important as understanding your growth strategy. Imagine if you are Alex, a business owner based in San Diego, California, who has spent the last 3 years building a highly successful direct-to-consumer brand specializing in artisanal, small-batch hot sauces. Alex started on Squarespace because of the low barrier to entry and the beautiful design templates. By the middle of 2026, his email list has swelled to 45,000 active subscribers. He is seeing impressive open rates, but he has reached the point where he needs advanced features that Squarespace simply does not provide. Features like predictive churn modeling to identify customers who are about to stop buying, or native SMS integration to send flash sale alerts directly to his customers' phones. Alex decides it is time to graduate to a more robust, enterprise-level platform like Klaviyo. He assumes that since he owns his list, the move will be a simple matter of clicking an export button and then clicking an import button. He is about to face a very expensive awakening. The first wall Alex hits is the difference between subscriber state and behavioral event logs. When Alex clicks the export button in Squarespace, The system generates a standard comma-separated values file, or a CSV. This file contains the names and email addresses of his subscribers, and perhaps a few basic tags indicating if they have made a purchase. This is what we call the subscriber state, a static snapshot of who is on the list at this exact moment. However, what the CSV does not contain is the rich, historical behavioral metadata that Alex has spent 3 years accumulating. It does not show which specific subscribers opened every single email for the last 6 months. It does not show the exact date and time a customer clicked on a link for a habanero sauce but ultimately decided not to buy. It does not show the customer's individual lifetime value calculation or their historical engagement score. When Alex imports his list into the new platform, he is essentially starting his behavioral relationship with those customers from zero. His new, expensive software has no idea who his VIPs are and who his least engaged subscribers are. He cannot immediately trigger a high-value loyalty sequence for his best customers because that historical data stayed behind in the Squarespace database. Historically, this loss of behavioral intelligence results in a significant, temporary drop in marketing efficiency, as the new system spends months relearning the patterns of Alex's audience. This is the hidden cost of platform lock-in. You own the email addresses, but the platform owns the intelligence attached to those addresses. But the technical friction goes even deeper than data loss. Let us look at the grueling step-by-step reality of the sender reputation migration. In the digital landscape of 2026, you cannot simply move a list of 45,000 people to a new platform and immediately send a massive promotional blast. To the major inbox providers like Gmail and Outlook, a sudden surge of high-volume traffic from a new unrecognized IP address looks exactly like a security breach or a spam attack. If Alex tries to send to his entire list on day one of his migration, the global spam filters will instantly throttle his domain, and his deliverability will collapse. Alex is forced to undergo a process called IP warming. This is a manual, labor-intensive protocol where he must slowly and meticulously introduce himself to the inbox providers using his new platform's infrastructure. In week 1, he can only send to his most engaged segment, perhaps 500 people who have opened an email in the last 7 days. In week 2, he can slowly increase that to 1,000. This process continues for 4 to 6 weeks before he can safely send to his entire list. During this transition period, Alex is effectively paying for 2 different email subscriptions, while his total reachable audience is severely restricted. He is paying a premium for his new software while only being able to use a fraction of its power, all while the potential outcomes for his monthly revenue are highly uncertain due to the restricted reach. This is a historical trend that catches thousands of e-commerce founders off guard every year. To future-proof your business and maintain true digital sovereignty, you must implement what advanced operators call the external brain strategy. This is a proactive, step-by-step protocol that ensures you are never a hostage to your own software stack. Step 1 is the implementation of a weekly manual data backup. Do not rely on the platform's cloud storage as your only record. Every Friday afternoon, you must export your full subscriber list, including all available purchase data and custom tags, and store it in an encrypted, independent environment, such as a secure local drive or a private cloud database like Airtable. Step 2 is the externalization of your creative assets. Many Squarespace users build their email templates directly in the native editor and never save the high-resolution images or the underlying copy elsewhere. If you ever need to migrate, you will find yourself manually copying and pasting text and re-uploading hundreds of product photos. By maintaining an organized external library of every email header, product lifestyle shot, and long-form copy block, you reduce a week-long design migration into a few hours of assembly. Step 3 is the most critical: the use of a third-party tracking layer. In 2026, savvy store owners use external tools to track customer behavior independently of their website builder or their email service provider. By using a tool like Google Analytics with enhanced e-commerce tracking or a specialized customer data platform, you can maintain a permanent record of every click and purchase that is completely portable. If you decide to move from Squarespace to another platform, you simply point your new email tool at your independent behavioral database. You take the intelligence with you. This turns the exit gate from a narrow, dangerous passage into a wide-open door. By following this protocol, you are no longer a tenant in Squarespace garden. You are a sovereign business owner who happens to be using Squarespace as a highly efficient, temporary tool for your current stage of growth. You have the freedom to enjoy the native simplicity and the technical reliability of the platform today, while knowing that your future scalability is not being compromised by hidden technical debt. You are building on a foundation of portable data, which is the only way to ensure long-term stability in the volatile e-commerce market. But even with a perfect migration plan and a robust external brain, there is one final overarching question that every store owner must answer before they commit their business to the Squarespace ecosystem. We have looked at the design, the delivery, the logic, and the cost. We have even planned for the eventual exit. But how do you actually measure the human element of your success? Beyond the open rates and the conversion percentages, how do you determine if your email campaigns are actually building a brand that people love, or if you are just becoming another source of digital noise in an already crowded American inbox? We are approaching the final stages of this masterclass, and it is time to talk about the psychological anatomy of a high-conversion Squarespace email strategy. What are the specific, data-backed copy patterns that actually move the needle in 2026? And how do you implement them using the native tools at your disposal? The technical setup is finished, but the art of the sale is just beginning. Are you ready to see the exact templates that are currently dominating the US market? To understand the art of the sale in 2026, we have to acknowledge that the average American consumer is currently bombarded by over 5,000 digital marketing impressions every single day. Their internal filters for generic, high-pressure sales tactics are more sophisticated than they have ever been in historical trends. If your email looks like a traditional advertisement, it will be treated like one, deleted within 3 seconds without being read. The most successful online stores currently dominating the US market have shifted away from the polished, corporate aesthetic of the early 2020s and moved toward what is known as the personal correspondence framework. Within the rigid design constraints of Squarespace email campaigns, this shift is actually your greatest competitive advantage. Because you cannot build overly complex, flashy layouts, you are forced to communicate like a real human being. Imagine if you are Tyler, a founder operating a boutique brand in Brooklyn, New York, that specializes in premium, hand-stitched leather everyday carry items. In 2026, Tyler's brand is not just selling wallets and notebook covers. He is selling a specific lifestyle of organized, analog craftsmanship. When a new visitor arrives at his Squarespace site and joins his list to receive a digital guide on leather care, Tyler does not send a generic thank you email. He utilizes the native Squarespace welcome sequence automation to trigger a 3-part trust-building masterclass. Step by step, the first email in this sequence, which fires immediately upon sign-up, is titled with a low-friction, sentence-case subject line like, "Thought you might find this useful." Inside, Tyler uses a simple single-column layout. He avoids large, distracting banners and instead uses a high-resolution, close-up image of a leather hide being cut, inheriting his site's minimalist typography. The copy is written in the first person. He explains the exact origin of his materials and the historical trends of leather tanning in the United States. He does not ask for a sale in this first email. He simply provides the promised value and sets the expectation that he will be sharing more about the craft in the coming days. The second email in Tyler's sequence, firing exactly 48 hours later, is the educational deep dive. He uses a Squarespace product block to showcase his best-selling minimalist wallet, but he surrounds it with 300 words of copy explaining why he chose a specific thickness of thread for durability. By the time the third email arrives on day 5, the conversion email, the subscriber already perceives Tyler as a master of his craft rather than a stranger trying to take their money. In this final email of the sequence, Tyler utilizes the native Squarespace discount code feature. He creates a unique, time-sensitive code in his commerce dashboard and embeds it into a clean, centered button in the email. Because the subscriber has already been nurtured through 2 non-commercial touchpoints, the potential outcomes for this conversion email are significantly higher than a standard cold blast. Tyler is seeing a consistent 12% click-through rate on these automated sequences, which is nearly triple the industry average for his niche. Now let us examine the high-stakes psychology of the abandoned cart sequence, which is perhaps the most critical revenue-generating tool in your entire Squarespace arsenal. In 2026, the primary reason for cart abandonment is not a lack of interest but digital distraction. A customer is in the middle of a purchase in Chicago, Illinois, when their food delivery arrives, or they receive a notification from another app. They simply forget to finish. Historically, most stores send a single reminder 24 hours later. This is a massive operational mistake. Using the native Squarespace commerce settings, you need to configure a 2-stage recovery protocol. The first email should trigger exactly 1 hour after the cart is abandoned. The subject line should be a gentle, non-aggressive question like, "Did something go wrong?" This email should not offer a discount. Offering a discount too early trains your customers to abandon their carts just to get a lower price, which mathematically erodes your profit margins over time. Instead, this 1-hour reminder should focus on customer service. It should feature a large, clear image of the abandoned item and a direct link to the checkout page. If the customer does not convert from that first reminder, the second email triggers 24 hours later. This is where you introduce the financial incentive. You use a bold, clear Squarespace text block to explain that you have reserved their items for a limited time and offer a small 10% discount. By layering these two native automations, you are addressing both the distracted buyer and the price-sensitive buyer. Case studies of mid-sized U.S. apparel brands show that this two-step approach recovers up to 30% more revenue than a single-step reminder. The key to making this work within Squarespace is maintaining the mobile-first aesthetic. You must ensure your product images are clear and that your call-to-action button is large enough to be easily tapped with a thumb on a small screen. We also have to discuss the power of the post-purchase upsell, a feature that many Squarespace users completely ignore. Imagine if you are Jordan, who runs a specialty kitchenware store in Seattle, Washington. When a customer buys a high-end chef's knife, Jordan's Squarespace backend recognizes that specific SKU and triggers an automated post-purchase sequence. 7 days after the delivery, the customer receives an email titled, "How to Keep Your New Knife Sharp." This email is purely educational, featuring a video link to a knife sharpening tutorial hosted on Jordan's site. However, at the bottom of that email, Jordan uses a Squarespace product block to feature a professional honing steel and a specialized sharpening stone. This is not perceived as an intrusive advertisement because it is perfectly timed to a problem the customer is about to face. By providing the solution at the exact moment the need arises, Jordan is able to increase his average customer lifetime value by 20% within the first month of implementing this single automation. The final template currently dominating the 2026 market is the seasonal content-first promotion. In the United States, traditional holiday sales like Black Friday or Memorial Day are becoming increasingly crowded and expensive. To cut through the noise, you must use your Squarespace blog as a content engine that feeds your email list. Instead of sending an email that says sale starts now, you send an email that features a curated gift guide or a series of expert tips related to the holiday. You use the native Squarespace newsletter block to pull in your latest blog post summaries, providing genuine value to the reader. Only then, at the very end of the value-add content, do you reveal the promotional offer. This strategy leverages the reciprocity principle. Because you have given the reader something of value for free, they are psychologically more inclined to support your business when you ask for the sale. Step by step, to implement these templates, you must first master the art of the subject line and the pre-header text. In the Squarespace editor, these are the only two elements a user sees before they even open your email. Historically, subject lines in sentence case, meaning only the first word is capitalized, perform better than title case or all caps because they look like an email from a friend. Your pre-header text should never repeat your subject line. It should provide a secondary, compelling reason to open. If your subject line is, "Your knife sharpening guide," your pre-header should be, "Avoid the most common mistake that ruins professional blades." This combination creates an open loop in the subscriber's mind that can only be closed by opening the email. You have now mastered the technical infrastructure, the financial modeling, the migration protection, and the psychological frameworks of high-conversion copy. You are standing at the threshold of a complete digital transformation for your online store. But there is one final overarching question that we must address to bring this entire masterclass to a close. After analyzing every single feature, every limitation, and every potential outcome, what is the definitive verdict for your specific business in the year 2026? We are entering the final part of our deep dive. I am going to give you the ultimate decision matrix, a series of 5 final, high-stakes questions that will tell you definitively if you should double down on Squarespace email campaigns today, or if you need to start your migration immediately. This is the moment where we stop talking about theory and start making the final, irreversible decision for your brand's future. Are you ready for the final verdict? We begin this final analytical framework with the first and most critical question of the decision matrix, the revenue to complexity ratio. To understand the potential outcomes of your choice, you must look at your projected gross revenue for the remainder of 2026. Imagine if you are Carlos, an entrepreneur in Miami, Florida, who has just launched a high-end line of sustainably sourced athletic wear. Carlos is currently generating roughly $5,000 in monthly recurring revenue. For Carlos, his primary bottleneck is not a lack of advanced data science. It is a lack of time. He is the CEO, the shipping clerk, and the social media manager. If Carlos spends 4 hours a week trying to synchronize a complex third-party email platform with his Squarespace inventory, he is losing 4 hours of product development or high-level strategy. Historical trends for businesses in this early growth stage suggest that the simplicity of Squarespace email campaigns provides a much higher return on investment because it minimizes operational friction. If your store is making less than $10,000 a month and you have a small, manageable product catalog, the native tool is almost certainly worth the investment. The cost of the convenience premium is negligible compared to the value of the hours you regain in your schedule. However, the calculation shifts dramatically when we look at the second question, the personalization gap. This is the moment where you must be brutally honest about your marketing strategy. If your business model requires you to send different messages to people based on their specific geographic location, their previous browsing history on your site, or the exact frequency of their purchases, you are going to hit the Squarespace ceiling within weeks. Let us look at a case study of Olivia, who runs a bespoke stationery shop in Nashville, Tennessee. Olivia has a massive catalog of over 200 unique items. She needs to send a specific discount for wedding invitations to people who visited her wedding collection, but a completely different educational sequence about fountain pen inks to her hobbyist customers. Because Squarespace lacks dynamic behavioral triggers that can track page-level views and translate them into email segments, Olivia is forced to treat all her visitors as a single monolithic group. If your business relies on this kind of hyper-personalization to maintain its conversion rates, then Squarespace is mathematically not worth it, regardless of how much you enjoy the interface. You are essentially trying to win a professional race in a very reliable, very attractive family sedan. It will get you to the finish line, but you will never be competitive with the specialized machines. The third question in our matrix focuses on design velocity versus creative control. In the fast-paced e-commerce environment of 2026, the speed at which you can move from a product idea to a sent email is a competitive advantage. Squarespace email campaigns is designed for high design velocity. You can drag a product block, inherit your site styles, and hit send in under 10 minutes. For many American store owners, this is the ultimate selling point. But you must ask yourself, does your brand identity require a unique, avant-garde visual language that the Squarespace grid cannot support? If you are a high-fashion brand or a creative agency where the aesthetic is the product, the rigid blocks of Squarespace will eventually feel like a cage. Historical trends in the luxury sector show that consumers expect a level of visual sophistication that often requires custom HTML and CSS. If your brand guidelines are so strict that you cannot tolerate the standard padding and font limitations of the native builder, you should look toward a more flexible, albeit more complex, alternative. The fourth question is perhaps the most overlooked, the tech stack audit. You must look at the other software you are using to run your business in 2026. Do you use a separate loyalty program like Smile.io? Do you use an advanced shipping aggregator like ShipStation? Do you use a third-party review platform like Yotpo? If the answer to any of these is yes, you must investigate if those tools can natively push data back into Squarespace email campaigns. In many cases, the answer is no. This creates a fragmented customer experience. For example, if a customer reaches a VIP tier in your loyalty program, you want them to automatically receive a special thank you email. If your loyalty program cannot talk to your email platform, you have to manually export and import those lists every single day. This is the definition of technical debt. If your business infrastructure is already complex and involves multiple third-party integrations, adding a native email tool that cannot communicate with the rest of your stack is an operational mistake. You are better off using a platform that acts as a central hub for all your third-party data. Finally, we must address the fifth question, the long-term scalability forecast. Where do you honestly see your business in 3 years? If your goal is to stay a lean, highly profitable boutique operation, then Squarespace is a perfect long-term partner. But if your goal is to scale into a multi-million-dollar enterprise with a dedicated marketing team, you must recognize that a migration is inevitable. In this scenario, starting with Squarespace might save you money today, but it will cost you significantly more in the future when you have to pay for a professional data migration and deal with the sender reputation issues we discussed in previous chapters. For some, the potential outcomes of starting simple and upgrading later are worth the risk. For others, it is better to build the foundation on an enterprise-grade platform from day one, even if it means a steeper learning curve and higher initial costs. The final verdict is this: Squarespace email campaigns is the absolute best tool on the market in 2026 for the aesthetic entrepreneur. If you value design consistency, technical reliability, and operational speed over complex data manipulation, this is your solution. It is worth every penny for the solopreneur and the small team that needs to stay lean and focused on product development. It is the gold standard for businesses where the brand story is more important than the algorithm. However, if you are a data-driven retailer whose profitability depends on granular segmentation, multi-step behavioral branching, and a complex ecosystem of third-party tools, Squarespace will eventually become a bottleneck that limits your financial growth. You now have the full architectural blueprint. You understand the technical handshakes, the hidden limitations of flat databases, the psychology of the personal correspondence framework, and the cold math of the convenience premium. The decision is no longer based on a feeling or a marketing pitch. It is based on a rigorous data-backed assessment of your specific business needs. Whether you choose to double down on the native Squarespace ecosystem today or begin your strategic migration to a more robust platform, you are doing so with eyes wide open. You are no longer just a user of software. You are an architect of your own commercial destiny. But even with the perfect email platform and a flawless technical setup, there is one final massive factor that will determine if your store survives the hyper-competitive market of 2027. We have talked about how to send the email, but we haven't talked about how to ensure your website is actually ready to handle the traffic once they click. If your mobile checkout flow is even 2 seconds slower than your competitors, your email marketing efforts will be for nothing. Are you ready to see the exact step-by-step audit that the top 1% of Squarespace stores use to optimize their mobile conversion rates to the absolute limit? We have mastered the inbox, but now it is time to master the storefront. What is the hidden technical flaw in the 2026 Squarespace checkout page that is currently costing American businesses millions in lost sales every single day?